nearly $500 million in federal canal repair money just landed in California, and the Snowpack supplying it is essentially gone. You're listening to the SGMA Weekly, your 10-minute briefing on everything happening in California groundwater. Brought to you by Water1.ai. I'm your AI host. Let's get into it. First up, federal canal repair money. The Department of the Interior announced a major round of Bureau of Reclamation investments funded by the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, and 3 of them came up in board discussions this week. Friant Water Authority, that's the agency that runs the Friant-Kern Canal down through the southern San Joaquin Valley, confirmed $200 million for subsidence correction. About $195 million of that goes directly to FWA. The remaining $5 million stays with reclamation for administrative costs. The plan: fund the Phase 1 replacement pump stations along the lower reach for somewhere between $57 and $67 million. Then build a roughly 2.5-mile parallel canal segment for about another $120 million. Importantly, the Friant Award is non-reimbursable. No local cost share required. That's a big deal. The Friant Board also flagged that San Luis and Delta-Mendota Water Authority is getting $235 million for Delta-Mendota Canal rehabilitation, adding embankment raises and bridge upgrades to the original scope. And over at Metropolitan Water District, DWR, the Department of Water Resources, cited another $50 million from the same federal bill for San Luis Canal subsidence repairs. That San Luis Canal is actually a segment of the California Aqueduct, so it's all part of the same statewide conveyance puzzle. Together, those 3 discussions add up to about $485 million. And that's just the canal-specific share of what the federal water package has on offer for California this year. Following up on the Snowpack collapse we covered 2 weeks ago, the picture has gotten sharper. At Turlock Irrigation District, staff cited DWR data showing the Tuolumne Basin's snowpack at just 3.5% of normal for this date. To put that in context, TID hasn't seen a snowpack collapse this fast since 1977, for a water year that peaked anywhere close to as high as this one did. The melt is running about 2 months ahead of schedule. Don Pedro Reservoir is now expected to land near 774 feet at the end of the season. That's about 11 feet lower than last year, with the full water year tracking in the mid-70s as a percentage of normal. North Kings GSA's update extends the same story further south. Building on our prior North Kings coverage, staff there noted that March 2026 was the first March in over 100 years with 0 precipitation in their region. Local snowpack came in around 78%. So the headline isn't drought, exactly. It's the speed and the timing. The melt's already done. From here through summer, these districts are leaning more heavily on storage and groundwater pumping than they would in a normal year. That's worth tracking. Now, this one's interesting. Diablo Water District, out in eastern Contra Costa County, reported that the city of Oakley just extended its data center moratorium by another 10.5 months. Oakley is inside Diablo's service area, so any large new development there hits Diablo's demand projections directly. The district is currently working on its draft 2025 Urban Water Management Plan, which shows supply meeting demand through 2045, even under a 5-year drought scenario. But the board has also separately budgeted for additional drought analysis going out to years 6 through 10, outside the formal plan. So whether Oakley ultimately allows hyperscale data centers or not, Diablo is doing the right thing, running the math both ways. Most urban water management plans don't get updated this thoroughly for marginal demand cases. Worth flagging because the data center versus water question is now landing on more and more agency agendas, moving to trends in the valley. First, a quiet shift in how GSAs are funding domestic well mitigation programs. North Kings just cut its annual program funding from $1 million down to $500,000. Why? Across the 4 participating GSAs in the Kings subbasin, 16 applications came in and 0 were funded. Most got denied because the wells exceeded the 50-year age threshold the program uses. Only 1 well in the entire Kings subbasin has been mitigated to date. Up north, Corning Subbasin GSA actually just received its first ever application this month, after years of standing the program up. And Colusa Groundwater Authority maintained its mitigation budget at $50,000 in the new fiscal year's baseline. Pattern's clear. These programs were budgeted heavily on the assumption of high uptake, but the actual draw is low. Agencies are now right-sizing accordingly. This isn't a failure of the programs, it's a finding. If you're a domestic well owner in any of these basins, the channels are open and the funding is there. The challenge is connecting eligible wells to the application process. Continuing the spring fee adoption wave, 2 GSAs this week moved their fiscal year 2026-27 fees onto the county tax roll instead of direct billing landowners. Paso Robles Area Groundwater Authority approved its $22.90 per acre-foot sustainability fee for collection on the San Luis Obispo County tax roll. And Colusa Groundwater Authority adopted resolutions placing its $1.45 per acre operations fee on both Colusa and Yolo County tax rolls. The trade-off here is real. Tax roll collection cuts administrative overhead and improves collection rates, but the revenue doesn't show up until late in the fiscal year. PRAGA staff already flagged that they'll need a roughly $600,000 gap funding loan to bridge the timing. That proposal comes back in June. Last up, the periodic evaluations. DWR is now in the middle of its 5-year GSP reviews across the state, and several agencies this week noted the process is running stricter than they'd expected. At Corning, staff said DWR is requiring detailed explanations for any missed interim milestones, not just acknowledgement, full justification. At North Kings, staff said the state is conducting individual consultations with each basin before issuing the formal determination letters, expected near the end of the year for Kings. And at Vina GSA, the stakeholder committee is actively amending the 2022 GSP in direct response to DWR's recommended corrective actions, including a planned pivot from groundwater level proxies to INSAR satellite data for measuring land subsidence. There's a shared theme here. DWR is using these 5-year reviews to push for sharper data and tighter accountability. Expect more frequent check-ins. That's your SGMA Weekly. If you want the full details on every board meeting we covered, head to water1.ai. You can read the complete recaps, and if you want to dig deeper, try Chat GSA. Just ask it anything about your district, and it'll pull up the answers from the latest meetings. I'm your AI host. Stay informed, and I'll see you next week.